me what Move Cherry Creek is?
So as many of you know from the last meeting, we now have a Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association YouTube channel. So if people miss the meetings or they want to go back and review, for example, the list of all the new projects that are being constructed in Cherry Creek North, you can do that by going to our Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association YouTube channel. There is also that wonderful history video that you can watch and actually listen to, which I think we tried unsuccessfully several times to bring to one of these meetings. So with that, we will call our meeting to order. Thank you again for being here. I've got a number of quick updates for you about things going on in Cherry Creek North with respect to the association and some opportunities for you all. And then we'll get started on our long list of presenters. And so I'd like to, first of all, welcome Babs Gerber. I saw her here. She is here on my screen. Babs, give a wave. She has joined the board and we thank her very much for that. So it's kind of a heavy lift occasionally. And she will be joining our group to try to help make sure that we keep you all educated and make sure that you know what is going to be impacting our neighborhood. And as we know, many of us who've lived here, there are a lot of changes we've already seen and there are more to come. So we try to keep you updated on all of those. So welcome, Babs. We're very happy to have you. Babs is very sophisticated in all things real estate. She's currently building a house up in the mountains and lives on Clayton Street. So she too has watched a lot of the developments and we are so happy to have her. Additionally, I would like to mention a couple of upcoming events. I hope you all got your newsletter. We are still sending them to mailboxes. So every once in a while we talk about, yeah, should we just put them online? But I think people really enjoy getting their little newsletter. If anybody has ideas for putting information in the newsletter, please let us know. But we continue to try to help bring you up to date on things for the newsletter. And in the newsletter on the first page, you'll find that there is a save the date for our 2022 Sip and Savor event. It is being chaired by Linda Barker, who is on our board. Give a wave, Linda. She has done this several times and she has a great group of people helping her on this. Including Edie Landon and a number of others. She, I think, but there will be more information to follow about that. We'll be sending out some more information, but it fills up pretty quickly. We are going to cap it again this year. We are going to still require people be vaccinated to attend. And so watch for that. The opening for ticket sales is Wednesday, September 1st. You must be a supporting member. In other words, paid your dues to be able to attend the event. If you haven't though, and you pay your dues to come, we'll give you next year for free on your dues, a little extra bump. The other wonderful thing, exciting thing that we have coming up is that our terrific paid member for many years, Maria Arakapas, is going to give a free seminar to all paid members. The seminar is called All Things Apple. There's a great little article in the newsletter about this. This is a 4-session Zoom lecture series that will take place from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock on each Wednesday in September. And she is an expert in this field. She will teach you how to make better use of your Apple tools and toys, your iPhone, your other devices, and talk a lot about the cloud and smart streaming. So we are so thankful. Maria, take a wave here, show everybody who you are if you don't already know her, but she's pretty well known in this neighborhood, and we so appreciate everything that she is doing. Please watch for, we will be sending a blast email as we get closer to sign up time, but you can go now and sign up for this 4-part lecture series. Just go to the CCNNA website, which is ccnneighbors.com, and then go to the events page and it will tell you how to register. So again, it is free for all members of CCNNA who are current on their dues. We also want to announce that membership will be, our membership year goes from the end of September 30, so it starts October 1 to September 30 the following year. So we still are in the process of trying to shift over to our new website platform, but we would love it if you all would make sure that when your dues are up and you get that little reminder, please do sign up. That's the way we can keep track of you, because then we have your email and we try to push out information by email to all of you. And if we don't know who you are, where you are, and how to reach you, we can't help inform and educate you. There are a couple of other quick announcements. Pulaski Park is the park that is just behind Gates Tennis Court, and they are having a free concert series by the Denver Municipal Jazz Band on September 10th. Bring your blankets, your picnic baskets, your wine. CCA is a sponsorship. That's Cherry Creek East. We do a lot together. We work on a lot of city issues together with Cherry Creek East. And they sent this invitation to us, encouraging and welcoming all their neighbors to the north to this event. It is free. They have some raffles, but it's really a time to spread your blanket out, bring your bottle of wine, your picnic, and enjoy a concert in a very close park. And finally, we want to make sure that everybody keeps track of our wonderful Cherry Creek Theater. Many of you used to go down and sit on the rugs and watch it in the rug store. It is now in a real theater, very comfortable. And Jay Fries, who is one of our very good longtime members, is on the board of the Cherry Creek Theater. And Jay wanted me to remind you all that it starts in the fall. And this year they're going to have, let's see, Tony Award winning family oriented Peter Pan and Captain Hook as a prequel. The musical comedy Peter and the Starcatcher runs from October 28 to November 20. And then there are additional theater performances. Please do continue to support them, even though they're no longer actually in the bid, but the seats are a lot more comfortable. So if you would, it's at the Meisel Theater, which is not very far, so just up off Alameda. And just go to www.cherrycreektheater.org and check out the options, and please help us support the theater. They were really bashed during COVID, and we want to keep local small theater in our neighborhood, and this is as close as we get right now. So with that, I think Linda has put in the chat a little bit about Sip and Savor, and Ernie has given you the link to renew your membership as well. So with that, what I would like to do right now is talk to you a little bit about our speakers tonight. We've got some big things going on in Cherry Creek North. And right now, one of the biggest things that we will be looking forward to is Denver Moves Cherry Creek. I'm going to start with that. I'd like to introduce Walter Schreib, if he can wave to everybody. He is with the city. He will explain what this is. And I will remind many of you that Cherry Creek North, when Wayne New was on council, and even prior, we've been talking about wayfinding and issues. Many of us sat on various committees about First Avenue, discussions about First Avenue on the east side of the Steel intersection. What about the Steel intersection? What about trying to ease traffic and make Cherry Creek more pedestrian friendly as we try to get across First, downtown, etc. In that process some time ago, and then completely supported by Councilman Hines, who took the oar and continued to row it for us, Cherry Creek got $1 million out, committed to this process, out of the sale of the parking garage, which is next to Whole Foods. So we thank all of those people who made that happen, and it ultimately closed when Councilman Hines was in the seat, and he was very careful to make sure that that was always a part of the discussion. And I think Walter might have a little more on that. But Walter, I welcome you. I thank you for being here. I'm going to make you a co-host so that you are able to share your screen. And I'd like to have you just take it away. So again, Denver Moves, Cherry Creek, Walter Schreiber. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Lou. Really appreciate the introduction. My name is Walter Scheib, and as Lou mentioned, I'm here to talk about Denver Moves Cherry Creek planning effort tonight. I'm just going to share my presentation that I have here. 1 second. Hopefully everyone can see that. So tonight's presentation is I want to run through a few different things. I want to first provide a general overview of this planning initiative, and then discuss the project timeline, and then also provide an update on public engagement that we've been completing over the summer thus far. The presentation itself will probably be about 15 minutes, and then we'll have time for questions. So happy to answer questions throughout. I will note that as I'm presenting, it's sort of hard to see if people are raising their hands or anything like that. So if Lou or whoever is sort of looking at the chat and the screen, can just let me know if any questions pop up.
Yeah, that's a good point. So if everyone could just put their questions in the chat, I will monitor that. Great,
thank you. So in terms of project overview and vision, first a little bit about the project team. I'm the deputy project manager and also multimodal planner for DOTI. Our fearless project manager, Paige Colton, is actually on vacation this week, so she's not here. I'm here in her stead. And then we also have our planning team of consultants is shown on the screen as well. The planning consultants are from Farron Peers, and then our communications consultants are from NHN Consulting. In terms of project overview, Denver Moves Cherry Creek is a year-long planning project, and DOTI is really working with the community on this effort to identify transportation infrastructure improvements that really meet Denver's overarching mobility goals. Is sort of the ultimate goal of this project. You can see the planned study area on the right side of the map, which includes the whole Cherry Creek North neighborhood, and then also beyond just the neighborhood bounds as well for the larger Cherry Creek area. And then you'll also notice that some of the borders for the plan even go beyond some of the major roadways, which are the traditional borders of Cherry Creek. So you'll see that we go slightly beyond Colorado Boulevard to the east, for example, or all the way up beyond 8th Avenue to the north, just because we want to ensure safe connectivity, not just to these major roadways, but also across them as well. A key project priority is safe and convenient mobility for those traveling to, from, and also through Cherry Creek. The project primarily takes a multimodal focus that looks at walking, biking, transit, the delivery of goods, and also driving throughout the area. The recommended mobility improvements from this plan will be used to fund, plan, design, and build the area's multimodal network. So this is an actionable plan, which is one of the most important points about it. We're going to identify projects and priorities for transportation improvements through this plan, and they will be funded, and we'll even do a variety of different pilot projects through this initiative as well, which is exciting. In terms of the process, as I mentioned, this is inclusive. We're aiming for a really inclusive planning process here, which is beyond just involving our city staff, but we also have a variety of key stakeholders in the broader community as well. The community we're engaging with includes residents like yourselves, area employees in the Cherry Creek area, business owners, and also visitors, those who may be visiting just for the day or from out of town, and also those who just travel through Cherry Creek during the day as part of their commute and might not necessarily be stopping in Cherry Creek every day. In terms of why we're focusing on Cherry Creek, there's three major reasons for this. First, as I think most people know, besides downtown Denver, Cherry Creek's the largest economic center in the city of Denver and also a major employment hub, which makes it a real key planning priority for the city. Second, as Lou mentioned, the city of Denver's sale of the Clayton Lane Garage actually earmarked some funds that are to be used in the Cherry Creek area. So that's where a lot of the funding for this project and also the implementation that I mentioned comes from. And then third, there's quite a number of previous plans for either portions of the Cherry Creek area or corridors that pass through the area, but these plans don't always have aligning priorities or visions, and they also may be lacking on the implementation side of things. So Denver Moves Cherry Creek is aiming to have a unified vision and unified approach for actually implementing these various projects moving forward. In terms of the project vision, this plan's vision stems from Denver Moves Everyone 2050, which is a citywide plan that's currently moving towards completion here by the end of 2022. This is a plan that really works to prioritize equitable and safe solutions for all Denverites, and also works to improve the movements of goods and services throughout the city. So as the umbrella plan, there's also these different modal plans for Denver Moves pedestrians, transit, trails, and then there's also these specific larger area plans. For example, Denver Moves Downtown was completed last year, and then Denver Moves Cherry Creek is the first one that's truly being completed under this umbrella of Denver Moves Everyone. So in terms of the vision, Denver Moves Cherry Creek shares the same vision as established for Denver Moves Everyone. And that vision you can see here on the screen is Denver moves everyone and everything with respect and care. Denver is a city of safe streets connected by sustainable mobility options, providing equitable access and opportunity for the people who need it most. And then just quickly, one last thing on Denver Moves Everyone. The vision that I read on the last slide is also applied across 5 focus areas that represent all aspects of a complete transportation system. So as you can see on the screen, mobility, safety, sustainability, community, and quality. And then transportation equity is also a crucial cross-cutting theme that will be advanced through each of these goals as well. I'm not going to spend too much more time on Denver Moves Everyone, but if you want to learn more about this overarching citywide plan, you can go to the plan's website, which is denvermoveseveryone.com. So I want to move into project objectives and what we've completed thus far over the summer next, but just wanted to pause and see if there are any questions at this point before moving on.
Not yet, Walter.
Okay, we'll keep moving.
I guess I should tell everybody, as the president of Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association, I also serve on the Cherry Creek Steering Committee, and the steering committee, which involves other neighborhoods that I mentioned before, we work closely with from time to time, including Country Club, Hilltop, Cherry Creek East, the BID, Nicola Masters, the mall, and and of course the chamber and those that have presented to you before. We're all involved in this, and there are representatives from all of those neighborhoods, and the steering committee is taking a very active role, as well as some of us, and I am serving on Walter's, they call it a steering committee as well, called Denver Moves. So while he showed you the key people that are running this effort, many of us are on the actual committee. So I just wanted you all to know that we actually do have a seat at the table. So as you think of things and as this moves forward, you have a direct connection through your CCNNA representatives on the steering committee.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lou, and it's been great to work with you on this, and then also we've had, I believe, 3 steering committee meetings at this point as well. So there's been quite a bit of interaction there. So moving on to project objectives. There are 3 major priorities for this project that we're working through currently. First is reviewing and reconciling the existing projects and plans that are out there. As I mentioned, there's quite a few different plans. There's actually 5 existing local plans for the area and 6 citywide plans that will factor in to Denver Moves Cherry Creek, and just ensuring that sort of the key goals and needs from those plans, and if there's differing visions, if those are aligned and that sort of thing, are a lot of the goals there. Second is performing robust community outreach, which we're accomplishing through a variety of approaches, including community meetings like this one, online surveys, on the ground research, and then different types of briefings and stakeholder engagement meetings and that sort of thing as well, which I'll share a little bit more about some of the community outreach we've done thus far in a little bit. And then third is a clear implementation strategy. So the result of this planning process will be prioritizing top project needs. So the concept design work for those projects in terms of improvements to intersections or different corridors, that sort of thing. So we can actually get through the engineering design work and complete that. And then also prioritize these projects now that they've gone through design, prioritize them for funding so they can actually get implemented. These project objectives are factored into our overall project schedule, which has these 3 major phases that you can see on the screen here. First is the existing conditions analysis, which I'll speak to a little bit more on the next slide. Second is the development and modeling of future transportation scenarios for Cherry Creek based on needs and community desires that are being currently identified during this existing conditions work. And then working with the community to develop a preferred future state or future scenario of transportation in Cherry Creek. And then, as I mentioned, the implementation for specific pilot projects. So for existing conditions, over the summer, our team's been focusing on quite a bit on existing conditions. There's 3 major elements related to this: collecting and comparing previous planning initiatives that have happened and proposed projects and data associated with both those projects, and then also the current state of traffic and other elements like that throughout Cherry Creek area. Second is analyzing a wide variety of existing data that's out there: crash history, traffic counts, existing infrastructure data, all that sort of stuff. And then third is public engagement around identifying challenges and opportunities and gaps related to traveling through the Cherry Creek area. One other point that I already mentioned a little bit, but I'll just follow up on here is we're really doing a lot of work to analyze recently completed and ongoing projects and plans in the Cherry Creek area, really focusing on a wide variety of plans. As I mentioned, there's 6 plans within the general Cherry Creek area that we're reviewing, then also some citywide plans as well. And then we're sort of combining what commonalities and shared visions and that sort of thing that are shown here with our community input and other data that we're pulling in here as well. And also recognizing completed and ongoing planning efforts. We're also taking a look at what's been completed recently in the Cherry Creek area. The project most relevant to the Cherry Creek North neighborhood is the Garfield Street Neighborhood Bikeway. You can see the project map here, and construction is almost completed on this bikeway currently. Begins in the south at Dakota Street, and then actually goes all the way up further north of Cherry Creek to 17th Avenue in the City Park area. So that's just one example of a recently or a soon to be completed project, I should say. And then also a few other projects that are going on in the area that will also factor in. In terms of public engagement, Our team has completed quite a bit of public engagement this summer. At a high level, the types of questions that we're asking are really related to asking the community members who live and work in this area, how do you get around today? What's working well for you? What's not working so well in terms of transportation challenges? And what are your priorities to improve for future travel in Cherry Creek? There's also a wide variety of people that we're really focusing on with this engagement. Area residents, employees, with also a major focus on service industry and retail workers in the Cherry Creek area. Those who have longer trips and more challenging trips to get to the area, and also have cost challenges and that sort of thing are a big focus. And then those who visit Cherry Creek, just depending on the different ways to get there, how they park, that sort of thing. And also people who travel through Cherry Creek. They may be on a corridor like First Ave or University every day without stopping in Cherry Creek, but we're still interested to hear what their concerns and challenges are as well. So since June, our team's completed a variety of virtual and in-person community engagement. We had our first virtual public meeting on June 21st. At that point, we introduced the project to the community, and then also this served as a kickoff for both our online survey and interactive map, which were both open for feedback through the beginning of August. And then we also hosted several in-person engagement events throughout June and July, both to sort of promote the online survey and online map, but also to sort of get some of that in-person feedback as well. So we're currently processing and summarizing the survey data, as the surveys have just closed somewhat recently at the beginning of August. But the mapping tool was great for really allowing people to identify specific locations where they're facing challenges in Cherry Creek's mobility network. Specific challenges by different modes, which is important as well. Like this is a crossing that's not too safe to walk across, or the traffic light here is an issue, or traffic's goes way too fast on First Avenue, that sort of thing, or this is a safe corridor to bike on, or that sort of thing. There's just lots of different ways that people could provide comments, which is really helpful. And then the survey asked a wide variety of questions about current travel behaviors and needs and preferences for travel, both to and from the Cherry Creek area. So to say we're very happy with the participation overall. We had over 600 responses total between the mapping tool and the online survey. And we'll be sharing a summary of all results once the analysis completed in the next month or so. So more to come on that. And then finally, in terms of in-person engagements, as I mentioned, we promoted the online surveys and mapping at a lot of the in-person engagement that we did, which I think really helped increase our response rates. But then also at the events, we conducted in-person intercept interviews and mapping exercises at the event as well, where again, people could leave a comment on a sticky note on the map saying what's working well for them, where you're experiencing transportation challenges, that sort of thing. And then we've also completed a variety of smaller focus groups with some of the hard to reach retail and food service workers in the area at local restaurants and hotels and retail establishments. So we'll actually go into the establishments and do interviews that we've coordinated ahead of time with either supervisors or GMs of a hotel, for example, to get the feedback from those workers who spend a lot of time in Cherry Creek during the day and work there, but then leave and go elsewhere in the evening. So currently our team is incorporating all this info we've gathered into our state of the system report, which will summarize the existing conditions that we're seeing in Cherry Creek, and then also combine in that community feedback before the project in the fall moves on to the scenario development and analysis, where we'll be developing potential future scenarios for travel in Cherry Creek, and then having once those scenarios are developed, coming back to the community for a second round of community engagement and getting additional feedback and hearing more from all of you. So that's all I have for now. Happy to answer any questions or go over anything again if anyone has questions at this point. So thank you
There
very
are
much.
quite a few questions in the chat.
Okay,
So let me go through a couple of these.
great.
What happens to the Clayton Garage funds when the Clayton Garage land is redeveloped? I think the funds have already been delivered to the city, but please explain a little more about earmarking those funds.
Yeah, I think I would have to double check on that, but I think since the sale has gone through, whoever owns it now is free to redevelop or sell to whoever they want. But in terms of the funds from that sale of the city owning the garage, I believe that's already been transferred through and what is sort of funding this current project, but I'd be happy to double check on that as well.
Under the sustainability arm, will there be more priority parking and charging stations for electric vehicles created as time evolves?
Yeah, that's a great question. And EVs are definitely, electric vehicles are definitely a huge priority, and siting of locations for charging is also a huge priority and something new that the city is working on, not only in Cherry Creek, but across the city as well. Just as electric vehicle adoption grows, it's an important priority. I should also mention that there is a parking and curbside management study going on sort of in parallel to this work for Denver Moves Cherry Creek. So there is a study going on in terms of evaluating current parking utilization and parking needs, and we're coordinating pretty closely with the DOTI team that's running that as well, and their findings will help inform our work here too.
To what extent, if any, does this project take into consideration traffic noise pollution issues, specifically in the residential parts of Cherry Creek North?
Sure. So traffic, and yes, traffic's definitely a huge factor in terms of challenges, both with congestion on major roads and then sort of the ripple effect that has on people rerouting into neighborhood roadways and that sort of thing. And then in terms of noise pollution, that typically goes hand in hand with issues with high speeds and speeding issues as well. So yes, definitely working to ensure that people are driving more safely, and those who are walking and biking and other things throughout the neighborhood feel safe doing that, and they're not worried about having to walk along a noisy or speeding corridor where there's lots of vehicles flying through there. So that's definitely something we're taking into consideration.
There are two questions that really focus on making residential streets in Cherry Creek one ways. I know that has come up in the past and has never been very widely supported because of the statistics showing how property values drop, how much harder it is to get through the whole neighborhood. So I don't know if anybody's brought that up to you, if you want to say anything about the possibility of one-way street conversion.
I would have to see what we're hearing in terms of community feedback and that sort of thing around that, just to see. I don't know if that's necessarily a priority, especially for local streets. But the feasibility that could potentially be studied. I think we're too early on to be looking at right-of-way widths, like how wide a street is and if it's feasible to reorient and how that impacts the rest of the grid and that thing. We're still pretty early on in terms of looking at what's on the ground today. But if there's challenges related to that, there's potential to look at it. But the city in general is trying to stay away from changing two-way streets to one-ways overall, is what I'll say about that in general.
And I recall that from serving on some of those study groups long ago, that was, there are a lot of problems with making two-way streets into one-way streets.
Yeah,
and it's never been good for the property values of those that end up on the one-way streets.
Right. And I would say if there's also concerns about speeding and noise pollution and that sort of thing, a lot of the one-ways you see in the city, they're typically faster and less safe as well, which is a big priority for why the city is trying to get away from designing one-ways.
There's a question about parking. Parking in the residential areas has also been a problem. Will enforcement increase? You've already said, Walter, that there is an effort right now on the parking, and there are like 4 or 5 of the Cherry Creek North board members who sit on that committee. I am one of them. Mm-hmm. And they are reviewing The parking permit system, we did have a presentation on that a while back. We will be having a future presentation, but there will be changes to the parking permit program. At this point, there are still discussions. There have been general recommendations. We brought some of those to you. Might have been even in earlier this year, but we will be bringing that back. I'm very proud of all of our residents who participated greatly in some of these questions. So what you can do is just stay on top, stay informed, and provide your feedback. But certainly that parking system will involve likely a change in the permitting system. There will be likely, I think, a recommendation for a fee for some of that. But again, that's still in the noodling stage. So we can hang on to that, but enforcement was one of the biggest responses in the outreach so far on that. So stand by for that. What, if anything, is planned for accommodating increased traffic flows at First and Steel and First and University intersections, given the planned developments?
Sure. So for the development there, any development that goes in, they will have to model any potential traffic impacts. And by that, I mean, use computer software modeling tools to, based on the number of residences or office building square footage and that sort of thing, and come up with an estimate of what the impact of the new development will be in terms of additional traffic going on to First and University and other roadways in the area. In terms of, so that's sort of the first step, but in terms of what DOTI can do and is doing is prioritizing high frequency transit in terms of bus rapid transit and that sort of thing along the Spear Leedsdale First Ave corridor, and then also improving transit along University as well. Just because being able to serve a new development in the existing density and development in the Cherry Creek area will also require additional frequent and reliable transit throughout the area. Just more cars can lead to more congestion, obviously. So we're looking at sort of a multimodal approach of what are better ways to get people to and from Cherry Creek, and then also those who live in Cherry Creek and also choose to work there, how to make it safer to walk and bike across First Ave or University, for example, those sorts of things. So there's quite a few elements involved there with looking at how to address that.
I want to welcome Denver City Councilwoman Sawyer, who I think joined a little bit into our meeting. So thank you for being here. And I know Councilman Hines' assistant is also here. So we want to welcome and thank our council representatives for attending. And she says, yes, the sale is final and part of the sale funds received by the city were specifically put to this planning and implementation discussion. So that is confirmation of that. There are a couple of other questions. I'm gonna go through some of these quickly and combine a few because we've got to get on to our next speakers. First and Cook intersection is terrible. This is where the CU Health Center is, and we've got that flashing walk signal. She says a light signal was denied because of the proximity to existing lights. Please reconsider. It's nearly impossible to make a left turn from Cook to First when vehicles are parked on the north side of First. Find out why UC Health Valet parks cars left wheels to the curb. On another note, how long will the outdoor dining huts be blocking traffic and parking at the Halcyon and Columbine? Lot to unpack there a little bit. If you could say anything about that. If you don't know the other stuff, Hallie, if you want to get back to me, I will find out from Nick Lemasters about the question on the dining huts. Walter?
Yeah, I can't speak to the timing on the dining huts. in terms of First and Cook, appreciate that feedback, and we'll roll that into our analysis with all the other feedback that we're getting. So thank you very much for that.
It was also pointed out that there is lack of consistent speed limit enforcement on area streets. And of course, many of us know about the drag racing on 6th and now on 1st. So again, enforcement is a real issue with those, but another suggestion was 4-way stops at all intersections. I don't know if you have anything to add on those points.
That's definitely something that we could consider. I think just depending on the spacing between intersections and vehicle volumes and that sort of thing, it's something that we would examine on a corridor by corridor basis. But that is definitely something that makes it safer for all modes in terms of reducing vehicle speeds and also making it safer for people to cross at intersections. So something that we will consider for sure. So appreciate the feedback on that too.
There are so many really good questions here, but I'm going to try to wrap it up. I know that there have been discussions about roundabouts specifically at the Steele intersection, and they did one up on 8th when that development was going in. Has anybody introduced a concept on a roundabout as a solution to any of this at any major intersections?
I think that would be a similar answer to the previous one about 4-way stops. It's something that we would definitely consider and is something in our toolbox that we've used along other local roadway corridors as well. So yes, that's definitely something that we would look into as a possibility. And which you said Steele and where specifically, Lou?
The Steele and First Avenue intersection,
okay,
where you have to kind of go. It almost looks like a roundabout, but it has a lot of stoplights, but you got to go around to continue on First, or otherwise go down to Cherry Creek Drive South. Haley Clark, who is Councilman Hines' aide, points out that outside dining is permitted through October 1, she believes, but we will be checking on that. And does anybody have information on the cone sites on First and Cherry Creek Drive? You probably wouldn't, Walter. Some of these guys, if you want to send me emails, I'll try to get information. Councilwoman Sawyer says the DPD enforcement team has been decimated by the Great Resignation. There are 9 traffic enforcement officers remaining in all of Denver. So if the kid is in the basement, tell them there's some jobs they can have. Okay, I think a lot of these are really, really good points. There's been a lot of complaints that I've received, and I know Nick Lemasters has, about some construction traffic through the neighborhood, especially when they are digging deep and offloading lots and lots of soil in those big dump trucks. And we have tried to keep those on major intersections without piling up and going on the streets. So continue to let us know when that happens, and we will continue to try to address those issues with the contractors at the time that they come up. I am going to thank you, Walter Scheib, for showing up. One really good question was, how can all of these residents, we now have 79 people on our Zoom, how can they get involved with the future outreach meetings? And is there a specific website for the Denver Moves Cherry Creek?
Yes, there is a website, which I'll share in the chat right now. But it's bit.ly/Cherry Creek Moves. And then the email address, which I'll also put in the chat, is Denver Moves Cherry Creek @denvergov.org. And both of those are ways to sign up for future newsletters and notifications. But like I said, I'll put those in the chat right now. So
are there any future meetings you can tell us about right now for public, for collecting public information?
At this point, I believe there, and this is why it would be helpful to have our project manager page here, but I believe the next one will be this fall, but I need to confirm with her. I don't think there's an exact date on the books yet, though.
And all of the Denver Moves meetings, are they, I know that the task force members or steering committee members are on that, but are those public?
I think the invites had just been limited to the steering committee for now.
Okay,
Yeah, that was what we were
but
doing.
after each of those meetings, a summary and sometimes the actual Zoom presentation is uploaded to that website.
That's correct.
Okay, so we will try to keep everybody in the loop as well. And if anybody has brilliant thoughts, we are trying to think about how big we can think about this. And I know that there are a lot of us engaged at a pretty detailed level, trying to figure out, think out of the box. If $1 million isn't going to do it, but what if we had some real different construction along First and Spear to make that more pedestrian friendly, especially with the Cherry Creek West project, which was presented last time and which you can watch again on our YouTube channel. That's going to be a big project, 13 acres. And a lot of the people in Cherry Creek North are going to want to go over and, you know, take in a concert down by the creek, or so we're trying to meld those and make sure that we get some good benefit of from that project. And now is the right time to ask the big ask, since many of us who worked on bond issues in the past have said, you know, we don't get enough money. And I know Councilwoman Sawyers and Councilwoman Hines has heard that a lot from people in Cherry Creek. Second highest tax base for the city, and we don't seem to get, you know, on the higher end of the budgeting for our infrastructure, which we desperately need. So stay tuned, stand by for future meeting notices. We will push those out. We've done that before. If we have your email address and you get our emails, you will get notices from us when we push all this out to you. So it's still a conversation. Nothing has been decided. So thank you again very, very much. Walter, and you can stay on because our next speaker is really, really, really fun.
Okay, thank you all.
Many of you, thanks again. Many of you already know Mauro Kasparian, who lived right up the street on Clayton for a long time before she left the neighborhood, but she's still top of mind and heart and always comes back to give us good information. She is currently with the DA's office. She's with the Consumer Fraud Protection Program, and she is here to give us a presentation tonight about fraud protection. And if I can find her, am going to make her a co-host. Do you have something to share, Mauro? There you are. You've got to unmute. Let me see.
I do have a short PowerPoint, but
there you go. You're a co-host now.
thank you. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. I miss Cherry Creek. I drive by my old home and go, oh, soul glow. So I am the Director of Community Engagement for the District Attorney's Office. And through that, I do a lot of R&O meetings and work with council folks, etc. And I also do consumer protection and fraud seminars, which this is one of them. I like to take questions because regarding fraud and being scammed and identity theft, everybody's got a question, a concern, etc. So before I even start, I want to put in the chat my email address. So you can always, if this is shortened, you can always reach out to me at any point and ask me a question. We also have a consumer fraud hotline. So if you're ever concerned that you have been defrauded, think you're being defrauded, have some identity theft questions, that hotline is on all the time. There's two people who are very well versed in fraud and identity theft. So because I'm not there and present, because I really like an interactive, Lou knows, I like it interactive. I like people talking to me, and that's what makes this hard for me. But I want to throw out some fun facts for you all. So I can't ask you the question and have you respond. So I'll just ask it out loud and then wait a second. So how many of you, show of hands, think that the cohort of people who have been defrauded or get identity theft the most or scammed the most, how many of you believe that it's older folks, 50 plus? You can show your, raise your hands. So a lot of you do. How many of you would be surprised that the #1 cohort that has their identity stolen most often are children under the age of 18? Is that a surprise? The crowd goes crazy. Because, thank you. The reason is because until somebody's 18 years old, they don't have to buy any, they haven't bought anything. They don't have a job yet, typically. They haven't had to use their social security card. So what a perfect opportunity for a scammer to find somebody's clean identity, somebody under the age of 18, and go, woohoo, I can take this identity all by myself. So the #1 tip, and I'm going to share tips along the way, the #1 tip I want to make for all of you, no matter what your age is, you are allowed, everyone is allowed 3 free credit reports a year from Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, those aggregators. And there is a website that is in this PowerPoint, and I want you all to utilize, that's not just looking at your rate and your score. That is going detail by detail, line by line of all of your credit outputs, the houses you purchase, all your purchases. If, for example, as you will now after this presentation, review that of a child in your family, 16 under, and you look at your 5-year-old's credit report, and they have a house, a boat, something's wrong. So find out now, before as a young woman that I ran into, she tried to go to college. She was applying for college scholarships. She was turned down. She couldn't figure out why. And it was because she had a bad credit score. How can I have a bad credit score and rating if I've never bought anything? And that was because someone had, for the past 5 years, stolen her identity, bought a house, bought boats, defaulted on the house, et cetera, all under her name. So it's a very big deal to check your credit report every 3 times a year. And there's no charge for it, and make sure that you're doing it with the correct one, because it's free and it shouldn't cost any money. If you click on something and it says it's costing money, then you've gone to the wrong place. Now, can you all see this? No, I haven't shared anything, have I? I'm going to share my screen. Now you can see it, correct? Perfect. So let me talk to you. There's so many different angles of fraud and identity theft, et cetera. I decided today to focus on how do people get my identity? What happens? Where does all this come from? So the first thing I want you all to understand is that you have to look at how you participate in social media. What is your digital footprint? Are you on Facebook? Have you
Mauro, you are
signed
frozen.
up for credit card reward program? Shopping online? Say it again.
Marlo, you're freezing a little bit. You might want to turn off your camera while you're sharing
Okay.
and then come back on, even though we love your beautiful face. But it seems to help when somebody freezes up on a PowerPoint.
I hate when I freeze. Okay, I'm gonna turn off my stop video.
Just while you
Okay.
go through, and that
Okay.
usually helps.
And you let me know if I freeze again. Thank you.
Will do.
Okay, so I was reviewing what your digital footprint is. So what you have to know is, and I'm still using my hands, I want everyone to know, I'm still using my hands, even though you can't see me, is that the more you interact online, the more your exposure is, okay? And how do they get your identity? Data breaches, scams from you, as I said, on social media, on the phone, etc. Google searches. Have you ever Googled your name? There are some people who you can make a report if you buy something on Amazon and you are a consumer and you want to put in feedback as the consumer. I just bought this bicycle and I'm going to give you feedback, Amazon.com on it. Scammers can find that and they can start putting together things. So just be cautious when you put anything online. Okay, there's hacking that can happen. For instance, there may be some of you that receives an email, and I'm sure this has happened to many of you. You receive an email from a friend and they say, hey, I've been sick and I can't get to the store to get my niece a birthday gift. If you would help me, you're my dear friend, help me out. Or I'm in Europe and I need some help. When you get those emails that express some sort of dismay or concern from a friend, and it's an email, before you click on anything, I want you to go to the sender's email. Just look at the email. Is it truly from Lou Raiders and her email address? Is it truly? Because so many people can capture your email, and I'm sure this has happened on more occasions than there's 80 of you online. On Facebook, you send out that Facebook message to all your friends. I've been hacked, nobody respond, don't take me as a friend again. They found your name. And the more that they find your name, the more information they're going to gather from you. I'm going to give you one tip that people do all the time on Facebook. And I understand why people do it, because social media is fun. But when you get those Facebook games, for instance, tell me the first name of your first grade teacher. Tell me the name of the street you were born on. Those things that you pass on just for fun, those can be easily tracked by a scammer. And those people who have responded are the most susceptible, more susceptible for being scammed in the future. So fundamentally, don't post those. And then secondarily, if your friend posts it, don't participate. Don't even say, don't do this anymore, Lou. Lou, I'm just going to keep picking on you.
It's happened. It's happened to me.
It
Many
has
people
happened.
know that. Yes.
So don't participate in those online games, and be very mindful of how you work with your social media. If you don't know somebody, do not respond to them. Remember that when you register for a program, that data is typically sold to third parties. Remember to read the fine print when you sign up for something. Every 3 months or 6 months, I go through my emails, my junk box, and unsubscribe two things that I all of a sudden, you'll notice you start getting junk mail from all sorts of places because though your email was sold. And I will tell you, scammers can buy your name, address, and information. These are all the things that are found and easily purchasing. I was in the direct marketing, direct mail business for a long time, and we would buy lists with people's home address, phone numbers, vehicle registration, et cetera, so that we could mail to a certain area. So I'm going to mail to Cherry Creek and I'm going to mail some sort of scam. Okay, so that's not how it works all the way, but I just want you to be cautious in how you participate. You're going to have your name on a third-party list just by fact of buying a home and having a car, etc. There are certain things that you can do to avoid identity theft. I'm going to talk about offline. Just for convenience, I want you to copy all the contents of your wallet. This is not how to avoid, this is how to protect yourself when and if you lose your wallet, if it's stolen, etc. It would be so much easier to go into your office and look at the list of things that were in your wallet, what credit cards, what different things were on there, so you don't have to remember. So go in there and just copy everything that you carry around in your wallet so that if you lose it, it's easily remedied and you can shut things down quickly. The second thing I say all the time is shred. People don't believe me. I will tell you, the last time I spoke to Cherry Creek North, and I think Lou was in this, I asked by show of hands, how many people have had some sort of identity theft happen to them? And I will tell you that Cherry Creek has been the largest number of people that have had identity theft that I have seen in a neighborhood meeting. And guess why? Why would scammers go shopping in Cherry Creek for identity? Because you follow the money. And that's where they're going to go. So believe me when I say shred everything. Don't just tear it up, because the meth addicts who go up and down the alleys, you know what they like to do when they're high? They like to do puzzles. And what you've done when you shred up things is just giving them little puzzles to do. So that's just being a little sarcastic, but just be very mindful about shredding. Don't give out your personal information. Big tip. Once upon a time when phones were on the wall and we didn't have cell phones, if you couldn't get to the phone, someone would call you back. That will happen even with your cell phone. If you do not recognize the phone number, do not answer the phone, because typically it's a scam call. Typically, I've got a warranty for your car registration coming right up. I mean, I can't tell you how many warranty calls I get, and I'm sure you all do the same thing. Just don't answer it. The less you answer the phone with numbers that you don't know, the less exposure you will have, and you'll start receiving less and less calls. When you answer, it triggers this person. This is a live phone number. If the phone call says press 1 if you don't want to receive these calls anymore, do not press 1, hang up. Pressing 1 only takes you further down that rabbit hole and puts you on a live list. Am I okay on time, Lou?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay. Mail important documents from the post office. Take it down, take your tax returns. I know somebody in Cherry Creek put their tax returns in their home mailbox and it was stolen. And there were a lot of tax returns during COVID. COVID caused a lot of problems with identity theft, et cetera. But if you have important documents, take it directly to the post office. Don't leave it to the possibility of someone removing something from your post box. This is where I want you to go to get your free credit reports, www.annualcreditreport.com. That's the only one that you should go to. Even if you Google free credit report, there will be a whole bunch coming up. This is the only one that's accurate. Online, you've heard it before. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it 10,000 more times. Use strong passwords and don't use the same password. I know it's really hard to remember passwords. That's why I use LastPass. There's a lot of password safe software that you can use. Some are free, some cost. The question that I always get, can LastPass, is the one I use, can that be hacked? Sure, but the likelihood is smaller because they generate each time a new password. Just don't lose that password. And if you have to put it in a little book, that's fine. Keep your passwords in a little book, but keep it safe. Don't leave it out for someone to find. And all these other things, I know you've heard them before, and I know that you've been in meetings before and go, I know, I hate it. I have to do this. You have to. I'm not even kidding. You have to. And don't use the same password, please. And again, use caution. I know you all probably, you're not the group that I talk to about going to a coffee shop and or Starbucks, et cetera, and using Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi. That's teenagers a lot. And I tell them not to use that. Those public Wi-Fis can be spoofed a lot. So make sure that you're not using public Wi-Fi for anything. Here's some internet tips. Log in with set up a login on all of your devices. So make sure that your logins are safe. Do it with a thumbprint if you have an iPhone. Smartphones are connected to the internet. Just make sure that's typically your phone's not going to won't get hacked. Make sure if you have an iPhone to put on the Find My Phone. Okay, that's not an identity theft, but it's certainly helpful because if somebody hacks into your phone, I suspect someone would get a lot of information, bank account information, etc. When you can, use two-factor authentication. I know it's a pain, but it's just safer. And my job is to teach you how to be safer. And when it says click here, don't do it. Hundreds of scam emails go out. Thousands of scam emails go out, and they are look-alike. They're phishing. They look alike other companies, like real companies. When you get an email from, for instance, when I got an email from FedEx that said your package is waiting to be picked up, click here. Well, I thought to myself, I don't think I have a package. And I looked in the URL. So this is the tip. Look in the URL and note to yourself, where is that? What is the real address? And I hope you all know where the URL is. That's the www thing up at the top. Look where the email comes from, because in the case that I got from FedEx, it was for real, www.FedEx, PHEDX. So just the big way to check to say, is this a real email from my bank saying we found some suspicious activity? When you see that email, no matter how real it looks like, or even if you get an email from your nephew that says, check this out, do not click here. Call the bank directly. Don't call the number on the email. Call your bank directly. Did you just email me? Pardon me. Did you just email and say that there's suspicious activity? Call your nephew. Did you just send me a link? A lot of people don't like Messenger. And I, for one, stay away from Messenger on Instagram if you use it, because it's a hacking heyday. A lot of people have been hacked by Messenger. When it looks like an email, a message comes from Lou, check this out. I think you were at this party, weren't you? There's a picture of you. It's really quite inane and very pleasant email. And if you click there, you will hand over your information to that person. I don't know why there's a question mark after do not give remote access to your computer. That shouldn't be there. It's a statement. Do not give remote access to anyone. The ongoing scam that you get the call that says there's something wrong. I'm with Microsoft. I know you all have gotten that. It's very easy to sit here in these meetings and go, oh, I would never fall for that. But I will tell you time and time again, when people are taken off guard, and that's one of the tactics scammers use, is to take you off guard. And they will send you an email and say your grandson is in Mexico and needs your help, and I'm the jail, or even you get a call from your grandson, I'm in Mexico. Hang up, cross-check with the person, cross-check with call your grandson. Are you in Mexico? No, Grandma, I'm here in Denver. And again, don't overshare. I do tell kids a lot to not overshare on social media. They are also exposing you. Your grandchildren are exposing you. We're all leaving the house, wink, wink, and going on vacation for 3 weeks to visit my grandmother in Minnesota, leaving the house empty. Have a good time. So be very mindful of those types of oversharing. These are the 5 red flags of a scam, and I've alluded to them all along. The number one thing that a scammer wants you to be is taken off guard. Again, you're sitting here and you can say, I would never fall for that. You will fall for it if somebody calls you and puts the fear of the Lord in you. Your grandson's been kidnapped. There's a problem with your bank. Something is a catastrophe. Your social security number has been compromised. When you hear yourself say, oh no, XL Energy had a big scam going on. Your XL Energy bill is $400. Click here to pay for it. A lot of businesses fell for it. Click here to pay your back bill, and they clicked. So if your first reaction to an email or a phone call is fear, I want you to stop, take a breath. Plus, you shouldn't have answered anyway if it's a phone call and you didn't recognize the number. But I won't digress. But if you have that fear, just hang up. If someone asks for verification of your personal information, this happens so much with COVID. I can help you. Student loans these days, they're reaching out to college kids because student loans have been put on hold and they're getting reinstated in September. But there are a lot of fake companies calling and saying, we can help you keep that student loan off or get rid of that student loan for you. We just need to verify some information. If you don't make the call to the company, if somebody calls you and asks you for verification of your personal information, that's a scammer. And if it's not, who cares? Hang up on them. I'm quite firm on that. The third red flag is when somebody says you have to pay and you have to pay now. Again, they're keeping you off guard. I gave a scam talk to a community and talked about the grandparent scam that I've referred to here. And a gentleman, the nephew of one of the gentlemen that was in the audience, called about 3 months later, and his father had fallen. Even though I had talked about the grandparent scam, his father had fallen for the grandparent scam because indeed he got a call from his grandson who had been thrown in jail, but his grandson was in France. And gosh darn it, the grandson really was in France. So it felt real to this gentleman. And he was told that he had to go to Best Buy and buy 10 $2,000 gift cards. And the gentleman did. And the next day, the scammer called again and said they need more money. And he went to another Best Buy and bought 10 $200 gift cards. Once you wire money like that, or you buy gift cards like that, that money's gone. It's just like cash. And that's the fourth: request payment in the form of a gift card. No reputable company, no lawyer, not the IRS, not Microsoft is going to say, go get a gift card. And last, tells you to tell no one, or else you'll get in trouble. I'm going to stop here. This is my email address again. I send out a monthly consumer protection email newsletter with current scams, protection tips. All you have to do is send me an email with the subject line subscribe, and I will put you on the mailing list. So I'm back live. I know you all must have some questions.
It was a great presentation, Mauro. There are a couple of questions. The first one, do HOAs fall under consumer protection? I don't know if you even know that.
I don't actually understand the question.
Yeah, I think homeowner associations, it's kind of nuanced. I think certain aspect of real estate sales does fall under, but most of it does not. So, Hallie, if you want to talk about that, we can look into that further another time. Nikki points out that she had her ID stolen. It took almost 20 years to fix that. Many
That
of
is
you
a
have
wonderful, wonderful statement, because as quick as a scammer can be to steal your identity, it can be so quick. It can take years to undo it, years. So the best defense is offense. I'm going to say a couple other things. Part of our responsibility is to know what's real, be suspicious, be cautious. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. It is for real. So we are consumers and we want a good deal. When the storm happens and stuff is out in your yard and the trees are all over everywhere, and somebody comes by to say, hey, I'm happy to help. I can clean that mess up, or I can fix your sidewalk because we have leftover asphalt from down there, down the street. No, don't do that. If you are going to buy, work with a contractor, work with a builder, work with any project that you want done, don't just say yes because the price was right. Call the references. Make sure that contractor has a license. You can look for it through the city. Make sure there's a license. Make sure the person who does your taxes, and I'm sure that you all do on this, but has a license. There are so many people that go, oh, the most productive, I give talks about financial fraud, and people think, oh, I would never fall for those type of pyramid something. Well, if you think about Bernie Madoff, there's a lot of people that fell for that. And the reason why they fell for it is because it's called affinity scams. My buddy Bernie has this great inside track on this stock. And so because he's your best friend, of course you're going to take his tip, or of course you're going to go with the contractor that he recommended. Don't do it. Do yourself a favor, get 3 bids for everything. Do yourself a favor, if there's a financial opportunity that's coming along, research, research, research before you do anything, no matter how tempting. Go ahead, have another question for me.
And we don't have much time left, but this has been so terrific, and the chats reflects that. Is public Wi-Fi still a threat if your Bluetooth is off? That's one of the questions.
It's about spoofing. So it can look like, it's not about your Bluetooth. It's about it looks like it's going to come up. Here's all these Wi-Fis that are available. A scammer, if I knew how to do it, I'm kidding, I wouldn't do it. But a scammer can make this Wi-Fi look like Starbucks. It can say Starbucks guest Wi-Fi. So
you click on it.
You click on it.
Right. And for those same reasons, I know that if you go out and buy those gift cards, even if it's a scam, you actually did it. So all that protection when your bank says you'll never be charged if you don't do it, that means if somebody gets into your account and they do it and you have nothing to do with it. But if you fall for a scam, all that protection does not exist. Another couple of quick points. HOAs are regulated by DORA.
If you have a debit credit card, and you go to the grocery store, always use credit. Because that you can get reimbursed for. Debit is cash. Cash you can't get reimbursed for. I think that's what you were saying. Go ahead, Liv. Sorry.
What is being done to identify and prosecute scammers?
Well, we have an economic crime unit, and the Attorney General has a fraud unit. The state's Attorney General, all the district attorney's offices, we are doing our best. Go on FTC and get those monthly updates. There's a lot trying to be done. The government's trying to limit those robocalls, et cetera. They're working with the telecom industry to make sure to see if we can get, sometimes you say likely scam comes up. They're trying to make all of these things more robust. If we find a person who's defrauding someone, we will, if we can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, we will.
What if there's only an attempted scam? Should those be reported because there's no
100%
fall for it?
Because what I do on these monthly newsletters, if people start emailing me and saying this is a scam that's going around, then I can alert people to a scam that's going around.
And just so everybody knows, you can sign up for the newsletter at amc@denverda.org, correct?
Correct.
All right. And I think that's it for the questions. And so do sign up for the newsletter. And Mauro, we will have you back as many times as you come back to us, and wish you moved back in the neighborhood. But we're so thankful for you coming here.
I'm going to start a GoFundMe. It will.
All right.
Okay.
And if
Take
she
care,
does,
y'all.
it's a scam. If she asks you for money, it's a scam. All right.
Bye.
Thank you again for being here. We've got one more presenter. We did have a packed schedule and the information is so good. So we are running a little bit late, but I would like to see if Jill LaContora is still here. She has presented to us before, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the status of the ballot initiative, about the Denver Street Partnerships effort on Denver Deserves Sidewalks. So Jill, I know you are here. There you are. I am going to make you a co-host so that you can share your screen, and you'll be our last speaker this evening.
All right. Hello, everybody. I will try not to repeat myself too much, since some of you have heard this presentation before, but go over pretty quickly what Denver Deserves Sidewalks is all about. Let me share my screen here. So this is the longest working campaign that I've ever worked on. I've been working on this since 2015, and I'm delighted that as Denver voters, we will all get to decide this fall whether sidewalks are in fact a priority for our city. The Denver Deserves Sidewalks ballot initiative would basically fund the construction and repair of sidewalks citywide so that we can all get around our neighborhoods more freely and safely. This would represent a fundamental shift from how we have managed sidewalks historically. They have been the responsibility of the adjacent private property owner to build the sidewalks in the first place and to maintain them when they need repairs. So it's the equivalent of as if you as a homeowner were responsible for filling the potholes or repaving the street in front of your house. That has not worked out so well for our sidewalk network. So the idea is by publicly funding our sidewalks, like other basic infrastructure, we can make our city more equitable and fair and safer for everybody. Currently, about 40% of the streets in currently about 40% of the streets in Denver have either no sidewalks at all or sidewalks that are too skinny for a person in a wheelchair or a parent with a stroller, which makes it difficult for everybody to get around, but particularly people with disabilities, families, older adults, lower income households that may not be able to afford a car and depend on walking as one of their primary forms of transportation. And our current system, which has placed all of the responsibility on adjacent property owners, has resulted in the inequities we see today, where lower income neighborhoods are the least likely to have well-maintained safe sidewalks. And the burden on property owners of paying for the full cost of sidewalk repairs can be quite huge. It can be thousands of dollars. So in contrast to our current situation, the Denver Deserves Sidewalks program would remove the responsibility for sidewalk repairs from adjacent private property owners and put that responsibility squarely on the city, just like other basic infrastructure. And it would fund both the construction of sidewalks and ongoing repairs of sidewalks citywide through a modest annual fee that would be charged to property owners. Similar to the stormwater fee that we all currently pay, we modeled it partly after that. With this sustained dedicated funding source, it would allow the build out of a complete sidewalk network that serves every Denver neighborhood within 9 years. Compared to our current pace under our current policies, it would take about 400 years before we would have a fully built out network. And the funding would also provide sustained, ongoing, dedicated funding for sidewalk repairs in perpetuity. So it would never again be the responsibility of homeowners. It would always be the responsibility of the city, and they would have sustained funding for that purpose. There are all kinds of reasons sidewalks are important for our quality of life, including providing safe routes to school for our kiddos, dealing with our traffic safety crisis. People walking are 30 times more likely to die in a traffic crash right now compared to people driving. A big part of that is lack of safe infrastructure for people on foot. Sidewalks are essential for providing safe access to transit. Every transit rider is a pedestrian at some point in their trip. And it's an important part of achieving our environmental goals and reducing pollution from cars. We know we can't walk everywhere we go, but there's a significant number of our trips that are within walking distance that many people drive today because they don't feel safe, they don't have sidewalks or safe connectivity. So again, it would be funded via a fee assessed to property owners. It's based on the linear frontage of the property and the type of street that the property is located on. So our Blueprint Denver plan, which the city adopted in 2019, is our long-range transportation and land use plan, identifies different types of streets around the city, depending on how many people travel down those streets and what the adjacent land uses are. And our complete streets design guidelines identify what's the ideal sidewalk width for each of that street type, based on how we expect people to be using those streets. So a typical local residential street, the ideal sidewalk width is about 6 feet. For mixed use streets that have businesses serving those neighborhoods, it's an 8-foot wide sidewalk. For downtown or major arterials, it's a 12-foot sidewalk. So the sidewalk fee reflects not only the linear frontage of the house, but ideally how wide the sidewalk in front of that house should be. So the most common case for most people would be a single family home on a residential street. In that case, the fee would be $2.15 per linear foot. For a typical single family home in Denver, the lot is about 50 feet wide. So you multiply that times $2.15, the annual fee for that property would be about $107 a month or a year, sorry, $107 per year, which equates to about $9 per month. We also wanted to make sure we were thinking carefully about equity and how we were distributing the cost across the city without putting too much of a burden on lower income households, and also acknowledging that a lot of those lower income neighborhoods have received less investment in all kinds of infrastructure, including sidewalks. And so the proposal includes a 20% discount for properties that are located within Denver's NEST areas. That's part of Denver's Neighborhood Equity and Stabilization Program, which identifies neighborhoods that are lower income, that are at risk of displacement. Every property in those neighborhoods would automatically receive the 20% discount. They wouldn't have to apply for the fee. There's no income qualification. So again, with that typical case of a single family home on a 50-foot wide lot, in that case, the annual fee with the discount would be about $86 or about $7 a month. So again, this revenue would be specifically dedicated for sidewalks. At the Denver Streets Partnership, we love all kinds of street features like trees and benches and pedestrian scale lighting. We hope that all of those things do get funded, but this program is specifically about funding sidewalks. So the fee could be used for building new sidewalks where they're missing, upgrades to sidewalks that don't currently meet ADA standards, so they don't accommodate people with disabilities, ongoing repairs to the sidewalks, and costs to administer the program. But again, it does not include landscaping, street furniture, unless those items need to be dealt with in the course of building or repairing a sidewalk. It also does not include snow removal. We also believe that is important for the walkability and the accessibility of our community, but we need different strategies for addressing snow removal. If the program passes, it would be managed by the Department of Transportation with oversight from the advisory board, which is a citizen advisory board that oversees the Department of Transportation. They would have to approve an overall sidewalk plan and also receive annual reports from the Department of Transportation on how the plan is being implemented. And the ordinance would also direct the city to use our existing plans that we all have been working on over the past several years to guide the implementation of the program. So our Vision Zero action plan, which has strategies for reducing traffic fatalities, our Denver Moves Pedestrians plan, our Denver Moves Transit plan, have already established a priority scheme for building out the sidewalk network, starting with our most dangerous streets where the preponderance of traffic fatalities are happening, focusing on major transit corridors where we know there's lots of people walking, and other high priority destinations for people walking, including schools and parks and grocery stores. We also know that our flagstone sidewalks are dearly beloved by people as part of the historic character of our community. And so where the flagstone is intact, it does direct the city to re-level and reset that existing flagstone in place. So we collected nearly 20,000 signatures from voters to get this on the ballot in November, and the elections division has determined that we had the sufficient number to actually qualify. And so it will be up to the voters on November 8th to decide whether sidewalks are in fact a priority. If you want to learn more, there is a ton of information at our website, denversidewalks.com. You can read the full ordinance if you're interested. We have an FAQ, frequently asked questions. Of course, we are accepting donations and signing up volunteers to help out with the campaign. And we would love to have the endorsement of organizations like Cherry Creek North. Those of you who are involved with INC may know that they have voted to endorse the sidewalk campaign, and it would be great to have neighborhoods across the city do so as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm happy to take any questions from you all.
See, I'm not seeing, let's see. Why is the current system broke and enforcement not performed?
Enforcement is wildly unpopular. When you have to tell a property owner that it is their job to do a public infrastructure project in front of their house, hire the contractor, cover the full cost, people are really unhappy about that. And so it's been politically difficult for the city to enforce its current policies, and therefore it's been enforced very unevenly over the years, which is really unfair. You know, some people have been on the hook to pay thousands of dollars, whereas other people have not. We're not saying that we're going to totally correct for those decades of unfairness that have compounded over time, but this would establish what we believe is a much more fair and equitable way going forward.
So I noticed too that there's a new sidewalk on the west side of Monaco. If you go 6th and then turn on Monaco, there's a new sidewalk there. Is that the city? Do you know, Jill?
I do not know about that specific sidewalk. There is a very small amount of money in the city's annual budget, as well as in the GO bond from 2017 for building new sidewalks. That's the funding we refer to when we say it would take 400 years to build out the complete network with that funding level. To date, a lot of that funding has been focused on sidewalks adjacent to public properties. So adjacent to parks and the like, which is good, but not necessarily the highest priority locations for, you know, addressing traffic fatalities and access to transit and the like.
Councilwoman Sawyer responded right away, yes, that was installed by the city. It was paid for out of the Sidewalk Gaps program and was specifically added there to ensure that students using RTD buses on 6th can access GW High School safely. Bravo, good. You know, it's always funny too, that like Country Club doesn't have any sidewalks. I think some of them would like sidewalks, some of them would not, because then people would actually walk in Country Club neighborhood. But I assume that being historic district might have some separate rules. What do you think?
The intention is that we build out a complete sidewalk network, just like we have a complete street network. I don't necessarily like having cars drive in front of my house, but I am totally willing to pay taxes for a connected road network that allows me to get where I need to go. And the intention is to provide the same thing for people walking.
What are you going to do about trees, roots that have impacted sidewalk heaving?
We actually think with a comprehensive city-run program like this, we'll actually be able to do a much better job of accommodating both trees and sidewalks in our public right-of-way. Both of them are absolutely important for creating safe, walkable neighborhoods. When we're putting all the responsibility on the adjacent private property to take care of the sidewalk, that can add to the complexity, and they may not be willing to go through the extra steps required to take care of the tree. But when we're building out and maintaining the sidewalk blocks and miles at a time, and we're coordinating with the city forester, we have the ability to design our sidewalks to play nice with the trees. And that's what everybody wants to see happen. We do not want to have a competition between trees and sidewalks.
And Councilwoman Sawyer did respond that the city forester looks at those kinds of things when installing sidewalks. Follow-up question on the install. Will the installers be city employees, or will all work be contracted out? Do we know?
The ordinance does not dictate how the city does that. They have the flexibility to manage the program in a way that makes sense to them. I would say with a program of this size, it would be very unusual if the city did not hire external contractors to help with the execution, just like they do with other major infrastructure projects. Even just repaving the streets and filling the potholes is a mix of city staff and contractors.
Right. Another really good point that Peter made, since the city proposes to take over management of sidewalks, will the city manage who uses those sidewalks? He points out that right now we have scooters and e-bikes and motorized skateboards and so on. Those really should be in the street, in the bike lanes. But in some areas, those people are using the sidewalks. Will that be more heavily regulated?
So the city currently has the authority to regulate how sidewalks are used. They are in fact part of the public right of way. Just because their policies are to require the adjacent private property owner to build them and maintain them, that does not diminish their authority to say how sidewalks should be used as part of the public right of way. So current city law already does regulate it. Bicyclists should be in the street except under very specific circumstances where it's a designated shared use path and the like. So this ordinance would not change any of that authority that the city already has.
And one of those enforcement, we actually had a small article in the newsletter about this. What about overgrowth of shrubs, et cetera, that go into the sidewalk, narrowing the actual walkable path?
That's similar to snow maintenance or snow removal. So the ordinance does not remove the responsibility of the adjacent property owner to deal with those issues. This is about the physical infrastructure of the sidewalk itself.
And one more question, and we'll wrap everything up here. So did I understand correctly that if this passes in November, then the city would take care of existing sidewalks that are uneven? For example, when a section has heaved upward, which creates a tripping hazard.
Yes, this would mean that the city builds sidewalks where they're missing, widens sidewalks that are too skinny, and repairs all sidewalks in the city from now going forward.
Okay. Well, I think this has been a great summary. Again, I think some of you have seen this presentation before. It did get on the ballot. I serve as CCNNA's, Annette Woodward and I both serve for your Inc. representatives. So we made sure that this got back. We did some polling. We took this to our board, and we did vote along with INC to support this. So not everybody wants another fee to be collected. And I remind everybody that you should have received some information on having the 2023 implementation of pay as you throw. That will be a fee for collection of trash, but no fee for collection of compost. And I think my husband did some math and said it's actually going to be less expensive for us because we compost almost everything. So that's rolling out too. We did have a presentation about that. We will get some more information out to the neighborhood, so nobody will be surprised, but you get to pick the size of your trash bin, ergo pay as you throw. If you throw away a lot, then you'll pay more. But if you get a very small bin, you can throw almost everything that comes out of your kitchen, even your white cloth napkins and so on, not cloth, paper towel, in the compost. And and there's more recycling that's being done. So that's coming up too. But when people hear about some of these little tiny fees adding up, I know there's always a pushback, but I think for the most part, I think most people wanted it. Rebecca just put here in the chat, I'm very happy to support this initiative. I live in a section of Cherry Creek North where the sidewalks are not contiguous and it's a real hazard. So thank you everyone for weighing in, for being here. We still have 45 people, and I like to try to be on time. We're not quite 15 minutes over our allotted time, but there's been so much good information. So thank you for all our presenters, and stay tuned. Make sure that you help us find you and your neighbors so we can get this information out to everybody. And of course, please reach out to any of us on the board. We're all listed on the website, and we're here to make this a better neighborhood for all. So thank you very much, everybody. And we will see you in October. So thanks again. And remember to sign up for Sip and Savor. Bye-bye.